Cassandra Romas, and welcome to 30 Medical Minutes. Our topic today is stress and women's health. Stress is a common problem for so many in this day and age, and it affects women and their health in significant ways. Our guest today is Dr. Rosalind Dorlan, a psychologist affiliated with Overlook Medical Center in Summit, New Jersey. Dr. Dorlan was recently awarded the OWL Award for Outstanding Wisdom and Leadership from SAGE. Dr. Dorlan is going to discuss how stress affects our health, emotionally and physically. She will explain how women can cope with stress, and she will also give us lots of tips to alleviate this stress. Stay tuned to learn about this timely and useful show. And now let's welcome Dr. Rosalind Dorlan to 30 Medical Minutes. Welcome, Dr. Dorlan.
It's delightful to be back.
Thank you again for coming. Well, once again, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your practice, if you will?
Okay, well, you know, I'm a clinical psychologist, and I have been in practice here in Summit for over 30 years. I'm on the faculty of the New Jersey Center for Psychoanalysis and Psychotherapy, and also work as a field supervisor, volunteer for the graduate students in psychology.
Well, Dr. Dorlan, I know you are an eminent psychologist, and many people have awarded you the OWL Award, as I mentioned, and many others. So congratulations on your practice and all the help that you've given to so many people.
Thank you.
Okay, so today our topic is stress. Everybody hears about stress. We know about stress, we feel stress, we see it advertised on TV, there's medications for stress and everything. But do people really know what stress is all about? So the question is, what is stress?
Well, you know, that's interesting because a day doesn't go by when we don't hear someone saying, I'm so stressed out, I've never had this much stress. But what stress really is the body's way of responding to danger or a threat. Stress is a response that our bodies put forth relative to something external that we may perceive as a danger.
Okay, so you're saying that stress is a normal reaction that the body is prepared to give out, and it's not a negative thing?
Well, of course, anything can be negative if it's too much, but let's look at it this way. Since our evolutionary times, humans have needed to have a stress response to keep themselves safe. I mean, if someone is being people are coming after a person and a person has to defend herself, or if a person is fighting lions in the jungle, it's important to have a way of notifying the body that there is danger. So in a way, the stress response has morphed. Of course, the stuff that we react to or overreact to may not be a pack of panthers or bears running after us. Right. It may be a traffic jam, but nevertheless, our bodies react to these perceptions.
Okay. So what I'm hearing from you, Dr. Dorlan, is that originally, and hopefully, stress was a positive response as a safeguarding of one's health and and protecting oneself.
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
So that's the good side. The negative side, as we say in today's day and age, everybody hears about stress. So obviously stress has gone beyond that point of just safeguarding one's and protecting oneself. It's gone into harming oneself emotionally, physically. So explain a little bit more about that.
Well, if there is one significant thing that is stressing someone out, and it's not prolonged, and let's say it is a temporary issue, whether it's a work-related issue or a family matter, one can kind of resolve it, and the body can go back to a state of relaxation or a steady state. When the stress response gets activated over a prolonged period of time, lots of things happen in our bodies that signal we're in danger. For example, our heartbeat increases, blood pressure increases, breathing becomes shallower, muscles tense up. Of course, all these things are to protect us, because if we have to climb a tree very quickly or we have to defend ourselves, it's going to be important for the body to react in these very profound ways to protect us. But unfortunately, when our bodies are in this activated state 24/7, certain things can happen to our bodies that aren't all that healthy. So a little stress is good. The athlete who is getting ready to do a run or a high jump will benefit by experiencing stress. They'll be more alert, they'll be more aware, they'll be more attuned, and it may even improve their performance. But if this is ongoing and continuous, it can really wreak havoc with our health.
Okay, so I'm understanding you, Dr. Drohan, by saying that the type of stress we hear about and people want to alleviate is the continual stress that overwhelms us on a daily, nightly basis, and it seems to be in our lives all the time. We just can't get away from whatever it is.
It's true.
Okay, so what are some of the things that can cause stress in people's lives?
Well, now, that's a great question, Cassandra. It's hard to say that the stress itself is what provides harm, because one size does not fit all, and one person's stress may be another person's challenge.
Okay.
But the kinds of things I see in my practice that cause people to feel stressed out, as we put it, are issues like bereavement, loss of job, failed relationships, and sometimes good things. Going on a vacation. Everyone thinks this is so exciting, but it can produce a lot of stress for people. So there's a myriad of factors that make life stressful for so many. Mm-hmm. And knowing what makes one stressed out can pave the way to finding ways to deal more effectively with high-level stressors.
Mm-hmm. I think about what's going on in our society today, that there are so many people who have lost jobs or feel that their jobs are threatened and are jeopardized by that. So therefore, there's a threat of financial security. Do you find that that's also a factor in causing a lot of stress?
I think insecurity, uncertainty produces stress. And certainly financial insecurity can produce stress. Relationship insecurity can produce stress. Illness, not knowing what is a problem, waiting for that test, can produce enormous stress. So the range of stressors is a very broad range. And some people seem to manage stress easier than other people. Mm-hmm. And some people with stress just kind of breeze through it. And there are soldiers in the battlefield who experience a whole range of emotions, but they can do their job and they can manage and they can think and they can be very clear about what they're doing. And still others may have some great difficulty managing their lives. So it's such a complex subject because we're so different as people. And so I guess the key is knowing what is your stressor and what you can do effectively to help yourself cope with what is coming your way, because clearly stuff comes our way.
Well, certainly life brings its ups and downs. The vicissitudes of life can challenge us, and then there are times when hopefully things are fine and going on in a stable way. Do you find that men react differently to stress than women?
Well, if you look at the research, and there's a whole lot of research about this, the whole idea of the fight or flight response or fight or flight reaction has been associated pretty much with men, although women have demonstrated these reactions. So, and there are other reactions to stress as well. Some people freeze and so forth. But there are differences because, first of all, women are not little men. Women process stress differently. Women have different hormonal issues than men. There's more estrogen as opposed to androgens. And so naturally, stress is going to be filtered through our hormonal system. It's interesting with women, when they are under stress, and I've seen this and it's been supported by a lot of research, women tend to tend and befriend. So now this may be rooted in our biology. We take care of our family, we take care of our children. So when there is a stressor, it makes good sense that a woman is going to be concerned with protecting her young. And so the whole idea of tending seems to be very much associated with women and their response to stress, protecting, caregiving. And we see that an awful lot. That isn't always positive for women's health, by the way, because there are some unique challenges that women have in terms of their health, because they tend to lose more sleep, they worry a great deal, they may engage in behaviors that are unhealthy. Now, that isn't to say that men don't, but there are some differences, and it makes good sense to understand that, because sometimes with couples, a man may have a kind of way to respond to stress that his wife absolutely doesn't understand, and she with him. So it's good to appreciate that we're all different.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from you, Dr. Drohan, is that men and women are different. The obvious differences are there. And emotionally, psychologically, women are mothers. They take on that mothering feeling and role of protection. So what you're saying is nurturing, protecting, overseeing, embracing, all is the wonderful part of being a woman and a mother, but at the same time, it can lead, if it's prolonged, if it's acute, if it's traumatic, can lead to those type of stressors that lead to, lead to physical problems as well, or emotional problems.
Yeah. And of course, we can't ignore that men too are protectors of their families,
Of course.
Men too experience the need to protect. But what happens, and I think men, and now recently we're seeing women are susceptible to this, when that on-off switches on a lot with regard to stress, you're putting more pressure on your immune system, on your heart, on blood vessels, on the way the rhythm of the heart works. And therefore, over time, prolonged stress can be implicated in cardiac disease. It certainly can be implicated in immune problems. And of course, I see so many of the effects of stress being expressed by unhealthy behaviors, such as drinking too much, or smoking, not smoking too much, but smoking, use of drugs. And I don't think that's just confined to men alone.
No. So you're saying that prolonged stress can affect one physically. And it's amazing to think that stress can affect your heart. Of course, if somebody's anxious and stressed, I know they're going to be probably sleepless. They can't sleep at night, they're worrying all the time. So they get maybe heart palpitations, but you're saying it goes beyond that.
Well, over time, if you continue with some of these adverse effects of stress over time, it can have a definite effect on the body itself, the immune system. Listen, when kids are studying for exams, and this is a very stressful time for college students, or the SATs or the ACTs, there's a tendency to notice increased colds. Flu is not just a function of the bad weather we have. A lot of times it has to do with our immune system and how it works when people and the body is experiencing significant levels of stress.
But does it also affect your digestive system, where people say, "Oh, my stomach," or and they have colitis, ileitis, and they have ulcers, and they have all that sort of stuff?
Well, so many of these kinds of ailments do have a genetic basis. So I'm thinking of the family where, there were like 7 or 8 kids, and before they get ready to go to Christmas dinner, the father would line them all up and they'd all take a spoon of Pepto-Bismol because everybody in the family had stomach ailments. But we all know the phrase butterflies in the stomach. We all know that when we're anxious, there may be increased gastrointestinal sensitivities. And if one has a genetic proclivity in that direction, it's not unusual for stomach issues, medical issues to emerge.
So if you have an incident coming up that you're worried about, as you said, an exam or a presentation at work, or you're entertaining and there's a big event coming up, that's okay. That's understandable that you have the butterflies, that your stomach is upset and your heart's beating and so forth. But that's not harmful, really. That's kind of understandable.
That
right?
can even be fun. That's not so adverse.
It's when it's prolonged and
That's
it goes
right.
on.
When
and
there's
it's forever.
no rest or relaxation
or relief
to punctuate
from the
it.
problem.
Yes, exactly, Cassandra.
And then in that case, if there's no relief from the problem, you're constantly worrying. And in today's day and age, when people are out of work, they're worrying about where they're going to get the income to pay for the rent and pay for the food and everything else. I mean, we're talking about real problems. Real problems.
Yes.
And of course, illness that can be so serious that your loved one is in a situation that it's just overwhelming. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So anyway, you have determined that there is physical effects to stress. What about some of the emotional effects?
Well, that's a very important area, certainly one that I'm interested in. Over time, prolonged stress can produce anxiety, can produce depression, can produce a whole host of emotional problems. Some of them start with poor sleep, punctuated by wakefulness, inability to fall back to sleep. Other kinds of emotional issues have to do with beginning to find unhealthy ways of reducing stress, popping pills. And very frequently, one's own anxiety in and of itself can produce a lot of stress. Lots of people just have a lot of anxiety about everyday matters, and that, in fact, over time, cumulatively, can contribute to emotional problems. And people tend to know when things are over the top. And if they are reasonably attuned to themselves and their own behavior and their own functioning, maybe they will say, uh-oh, I better get some help. Very frequently, they'll go to their family doctor, their primary care doctor, with a complaint. And interestingly enough, something like 65 to 90% of visits to primary care doctors have at their basis emotional issues that drive them there. And many primary care doctors are very attuned to this and will make suggestions to their patients. So we see a host of problems that are driven by the very, very stressful society we live in. It's very competitive, and it's probably more competitive in this part of the country, perhaps maybe the two coasts, the bi-coastal areas, than even in other parts. The other thing we see, when people are under stress, they tend to tense their muscles. This is important because if you have to fight a panther, you know, you're going to need to be strong. On the other hand, having cumulative tension in your muscles can produce problems like headache, backache, shoulder pain, and over time, that becomes a debilitating condition.
Okay. Getting back to emotional, I suppose if one is depressed, as you say, you could have a mild type of depression where you're sad and you're not smiling, but you're functioning in society. But there are times when it can go to the other extreme where you might want to retreat from society. You might want to stay within your home or wherever your shelter is, not associate with people. And then, of course, and this is taking our topic a little bit further, could even harm themselves too.
Well, extremes can be very dangerous, and self-injurious behavior or threats of it can be quite problematic. But in general, for, let's say, the average listener, the important thing is to increase socialization. Do not, if one finds themselves preferring to be home rather than out in the world, to find groups and whether it's cultural or religious or social, to be with other people, to increase one's community and socialization.
Well, I appreciate that you were saying that if one is aware of that, then do take the first step to talk to your primary care physician if you are manifesting physical problems as well. And of course, reaching out to your family, your friends, and not to be embarrassed about it.
Right.
Because many people are not going to admit that they're sad or upset or worried or anxious. So I think one of your messages today, Dr. Drohan, is that this is very common for people to feel the effects of stress. Women especially internalize it so much, and that they should not be embarrassed to seek help.
Yes.
So that they can learn how to cope with it.
Yes, I think that's very true. I mean, one of the reasons we found sometimes walking with a friend or talking to a friend or joining a bereavement group if you're in a place of bereavement is to find that you're not alone, and that any emotion that anyone has been experienced by others. Maybe not in the identical way, but it is a universality that we are human and we can identify with others' emotions. And there's nothing better than being able to talk to someone and finding that person not quick to solve the problem, but to listen and to sometimes say, yeah, I felt that way too. I hear you. And that can be enormously helpful.
And very comforting.
Yes.
Very comforting. And knowing that there's somebody out there who shares and you can bond with is probably one of the first steps in feeling better.
I do agree with that.
Okay, we mentioned that you have some tips for us on how to cope with stress. So what are some of those tips?
Okay, well, they fall into broad categories. The first group of tips have to do with doing things that increase your self-awareness. So if you have ever downloaded an app about meditation, and by the way, there's some excellent apps that can be downloaded that you can learn to meditate. There's something about finding the body's silence, the mind's silence, that can be very comforting, particularly if one is jangled. I do recommend to my patients walking, exercise, all of these, nothing fancy, just putting on a pair of walking shoes and walking around the neighborhood, doing something to take one's mind off of whatever is occupying the mind. We can't overlook enough the importance or the value of humor. It's really good to watch a funny show, and there's not that many funny shows, unfortunately, but being able to enjoy a good joke and finding the humor in life can be very comforting and a great reducer of stress. So looking at that, I would say these are important areas. There's a ton of other things we can do that include meditational activities and looking at nature, appreciating, finding gratitude in one's life. You know, the research about gratitude is amazing in terms of how it's reduced stress. People who find ways to be grateful about their lives over time have much better mental health because they've searched for gratitude, and which means they're attuned to looking around at a tree, at a site, watching a child. And so finding ways to feel grateful can be a very important, helpful aid to reducing stress.
Well, you know, I didn't expect you to say that, but I think that's a wonderful thing to hear, that gratitude, giving of oneself is what you're experiencing, a gift and giving a gift can also alleviate stress, which brings us to the world of volunteerism too, right?
This is a very, actually, if you look at people who, and talk to people who are working in an organization or on a project that has some value to not just themselves, but to others, can be enormously helpful in reducing stress. So, and it does good work for others.
So tips, some of the tips that you've mentioned are physical ones, taking a walk, maybe doing yoga too. You
Wonderful, I forgot yoga, very good.
Meditation, and any sort of taking a walk or going
Appreciating
hiking,
nature.
going out on a bike ride, or all those are very good because they get some of those, the hormones that you were talking about earlier, up, out, around, moving, and so forth. It's good for you.
And for people who are not able to do that so vigorously, just being able to be outside for a few hours during the day can
There's
be
nothing like
enormous.
sunshine too.
Isn't that what our grandmothers told us?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then of course you talked about means of trying to relax oneself. You talked about the tense muscles and everything like that. So I bet going to the spa isn't such a bad idea either.
That's great. Good to do.
A massage and for those shoulders that you were talking about. And of course what we thought about gratitude and your attitude and learning how to give to others as you receive. So Dr. Drohan, I hope that we have been able to give our audience some tips about how to manage stress, how to recognize stress, and how to cope with stress. And I thank you so much for joining us today on 30 Medical Minutes.
It's been my pleasure.
And thank you again for joining us on 30 Medical Minutes.